Hi, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's episode with DuxSoup. And today we're going to be talking about the integration with DuxSoup and LeadFuze. So anybody who's new to lead generation at all, this is going to be an incredible webinar to join because it's almost a 2-for-1. Quick introduction, DuxSoup is a LinkedIn lead generation tool that helps you automate the processes on LinkedIn. So things like sending connection messages, visiting profiles, scanning data, things like that. And LeadFuze is a highly powerful software to help you find your target audience, both with regards to LinkedIn profiles and email addresses. And one of the main things we find within DuxSoup users is they are very good at using LinkedIn automation. They're very good at replying to people, but they really struggle to try and find that target audience. Things like people in the specific industries, specific job roles, specific countries, size of companies, and many other things. And they find it very hard to find this target audience. So DuxSoup has partnered up with LeadFuze, and not only partnered up, there's a direct integration with DuxSoup and LeadFuze, so that not only can you find your target audience, but you can also sync it directly to visit profiles or to connect with people. So on the webinar today, from DuxSoup side, it's myself, Patrick Collins, and Ruta, who's responsible for all customer service. And from LeadFuze, we have the co-founder, Damien, and head of customer success, Andy. So if anybody's to go through either of their backgrounds, particularly Damien, you'll see a wealth of experience, not only with lead generation, but just generally sales automation as well. So anybody who's on this webinar, I want you to ask a lot of questions about the context of how to use LeadFuze and how to generate new leads with the right target audience, but he's a real expert in this field. So it's great to have you on the webinar, Damien. And if we can, hopefully over to you, where you can introduce yourself and share your screen.
All right, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, all perfect. Over to you, Damien.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yes, thanks for the great intro. So real quick, who I am. So I'm the co-founder of LeadFuze. I've been selling software and services since the mid-90s, so I got some gray hair in that beard. I've led software and service teams around the world. I've scaled multiple businesses. I coach founders to actually have more sales. Most importantly, though, I'm the father of these two little nuggets here. That's Odin and Gaia, my two youngins. But I want to have a quick chat, only a couple slides, I promise. Just have a quick overall philosophy about Outbound. So, you hear a lot that everything's changed in sales, and it has. The internet's changed a lot of things. What hasn't changed is this: your customers have problems you can help them solve. So it's your job to figure out what those problems are and how to get in front of them, right? So regardless of whether people says email is dead or this tactic is dead or that tactic is dead, the reality is if you can nail the top 1 or 2 biggest problems you can solve for a customer, they're going to listen to you, regardless if that's on LinkedIn, if that's in person, however you get in front of them. So what do you need for success in Outbound? The first thing you need is you need an accurate list of contacts. So you need to be able to build a list of your ideal customers based on demographics, based on all of their behavior, possibly where they actually hang out. And the next thing is you need a powerful offer. When I say an offer, I'm not talking about you actually sell them. We're talking about how do you get them engaged in the conversation. Do you have a leading content piece you use? Can you demonstrate to them you understand their pains, their problems, their issues? And doing that is a great thing to do through in LinkedIn using Dux-Soup. You have to remember this. Just remember when you're kind of put yourself in your customers or prospects' shoes. Whether just because you know that they're your ideal customer doesn't mean that they know anything about you. You're a stranger, right? You wouldn't just walk up to a stranger on the street and just start pitching your services, right? So you have to do the same thing in Outbound. You shouldn't be pitching in the first couple of conversations you have with them on LinkedIn. You need to kind of demonstrate you understand them, understand their problems, understand their market. And the last thing is just understanding that when I say offer, like I said before, that how would you get them interested in talking to you? What can you offer them that has value, that says, hey, yes, I'd like to learn more? And that's what you have to start. That's what you need to have knocked up. So, here's a couple of mistakes I see a lot of times in lead gen. The first is going for a meeting way too quickly. You need to warm them up a little bit. Again, they're a stranger, right? So you wouldn't just walk up to a stranger and ask them for a date, right? So the same thing in sales, right? So you want to make sure that you're not asking for that meeting request too early. Also, everyone knows that when you say, hey, a free introductory call or a free strategy session or whatever, that's a sales call. They understand that. So make sure you warm them up a little bit with some level of content or conversation around them, their problems, their challenges, their goals, their aspirations. Remember, it's always nice to remember the acronym WIIFT, what's in it for them, right? Put yourself in their shoes, figure out what's in it for them, and make sure you communicate that way. And with that, I'll jump into the tool. Maybe this works. There you go.
Thanks for that, Damien. One question, just whilst you're loading this up.
Yep.
I see the same analogy. I always say to people, try and compare outbound lead generation to sort of real world dating or something like that, because it's only at the point where people realize I wouldn't talk to a stranger and just pitch myself. Likewise, if we have a quick conversation, I'm not going to reply 100 times and chase them up and say, are you interested? You have to sort of play it cool. So I think the analogy of anybody on the webinar today, with outbound marketing, if you can try and have it the same way as real world in terms of prepare well, introduce yourself well, follow up politely, don't be too pushy, all these things apply in the same way as outbound marketing. But I think that's a really important point, because we both have that same point of view. So I just wanted to sort of touch on that. But
yeah, I love that. And it's like, just you think about it, just because you're behind a computer screen and they're behind a computer screen doesn't mean you're not both humans, right? And so you want to deal with them the same way you would in real life. And so what I see a lot of people getting very aggressive online because, there's no they don't understand the medium enough. And so just think about it. I call it back foot selling. So what you want to do is you want to lean back a little bit, right? You don't want to be pushy. You don't want to be leaning too far forward. If you lean too far forward in real life to someone, what do? They back up, right? Yeah. And so if you start pulling back, they start leaning in, right? And so it's the same idea here. So the way I focus on doing that, teach people how to do that is really focus on them, right? If you want, using the dating analogy, you find someone you find attractive, you started talking to them, you wouldn't go up there and start bragging about yourself right off the bat. Hey, I did this and I won this award. I did this, I did that. But yet we do that in cold outbound. We've been in business for 19 years. Here's the awards we've won. Here's how awesome we are. Here's all the customers we've helped. Nobody cares, right? What they care about is themselves, right? So instead you walk up and say, hey, how you doing? What do you find interesting? What do you do for a living? How challenging is that? You talk to them and be interested in them, and they will show interest in you.
And then the whole skill of listening is a tough thing to train salespeople, because that whole analogy of having 2 ears and one mouth is to say, listen twice as much as you're speaking. And so in terms of cold email messaging, cold LinkedIn messaging, if you can find that question that opens people up, they'll just tell you your problems. People like to talk about their problems. And if you can listen to them and give them a solution, that's how you can really warm people up. So it's good to know we're both on the same wavelength there. But yeah,
absolutely.
If you want to touch into sort of finding the target market, because I think this is what's really exciting to say, we have this software, but how do we play around with this for people that it's their first time looking at this and thinking, how's LeadFuze going to help me find my target audience?
Sure. So there's two big ways you can find target information using LeadFuze. I'm going to start with the second one first, which is account-based. This would be you knew someone's name, maybe you met them at an event, or you read something about them online. You knew their name, the company they worked at, or maybe you have a target area, maybe you've got a target list of accounts you're going after. And what you can do is you can come here to the account-based tab, and you can type in either the company name or the URL. Let's say you're going after IBM.com, whatever it happened to be. You can actually go out and find everyone we had there in that list. And that's great if you have a very specific customer or very specific prospect or very specific company you're going after. You can do that. By far, the most widely part of the tool we're going to focus on today is the market-based. So this is I now know my persona. I have an idea who my ideal customer profile is. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pick one of these title groups, and you'll see we have they're grouped, and you'll see how that works in a second. Let's just say we sell software or we sell services to, say marketing managers, marketing directors, and mid-sized companies. So I'm going to start typing marketing. It's going to give me a marketing role, and it's going to pre-pop. Yep.
From your experience, do you prefer to market top down or bottom up? So say, for example, startup with 50 people. Do you try and target the founder to introduce, or you want to target the salesperson who will then say to the founder, you've got to use our software? What's your general advice, regardless of finding the data? A bit of advice.
Yeah. So general advice is smaller, go higher, bigger, go middle, right? So if you're dealing with a smaller company, then yes, I would try to start as high as possible, unless I have a very specific thing I sell. Because in a smaller business, you're going to have to deal with the CEO or owner, founder, no matter what, right? So you go and deal with a marketing manager in a 100-person firm, like they're not going to be able to sign off on a decent sized purchase. If what you sell is a SaaS tool or something like that, where you can just slap down a credit card, maybe. But if you're doing proposals or you're asking for a large time investment or money investment, excuse me, you're probably gonna have to deal with the founder anyway. So I would start high in the smaller accounts, and then as you get bigger, start kind of, maybe in the middle accounts as senior executives, and then the really big accounts is actually after the problem you actually solve, who that person is, because they're gonna have to go through their normal process anyway.
We've found the target audience, and this is job role. So similar to how you maybe look on LinkedIn for job title, that sort of thing. So LeadFuze can find, what I do like about this also is it'll auto-populate a lot of general ideas that you don't always think about. So a marketing manager is one role, but director of marketing, VP of marketing, all these different searches are going to find different data. And a lot of people make that mistake.
Absolutely. So let's assume for a second we're looking for the senior most person in marketing. So I'm going to come in here. It's really easy. It's going to pre-populate everything. And I'm just going to get ones that I want. So marketing manager, bye-bye. Let's get rid of all these PR roles. And all I'm doing is just Xing them out. That just means they're not going to look for these people. Then we have some blanket keywords like marketing. No, we don't want that because that's going to give us everybody. The way the tag function here works, it's you're right. It's a keyword. So now what we're saying is if any of these keywords exist anywhere in their title, it's going to show up. So we want to get rid of the ones that we don't want.
And a few things people are asking is this search a little bit like Sales Navigator? And I think the answer to this is very similar in terms of Sales Navigator can also show you extra job titles. What's great about this, though, is you could use LeadFuze to find your target audience, but not use Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. So you can find really specific audiences, find job size companies, but not need a Sales Navigator account to do it. And this is a great sort of sync up with the two softwares.
There is, and there's a couple of things we do that you can't. So there's a couple of things we do that you'd have to have Sales Navigator for, like size of company, that you don't have to have anymore if you use this. The other thing is we have some data here they don't have. Like we have some data like what technologies are being used. So we've gone out there and we've put a database together of not just the person, but their websites. And this every time you use a piece of software, not every time, most software we use, CRMs, marketing automation, leave a footprint on a website. And what we've done is we've been able to go out and find that footprint and say, okay, you're looking for someone that has this. So you get very hyper specific here. You say, I'm looking for senior marketing people in this size company. Let's do that now. Say we want a mid-sized business, all right, 501 to 1,000. I'll just show what this also does. So I said small, it gives me groupings here. Right, so that's too small. I don't want that. I want 200 to 1,000. That's what I'm looking for. And there we go. So now I'm getting everybody, a senior marketing person in a mid-sized company that in the industry is I'll just pick one real quick, business services, let's say, and then I can go and we can get really granular on this. We can get to the advanced search and start looking at, we can add and subtract keywords, so have positive and negative keywords here as well. But just for the sake of this, we've got a pretty good persona here. I'm gonna hit start searching, and it's gonna go out and it's gonna try to find the leads for me. So it's found 126 actual senior marketing people in companies between 200 and 1,000 in the business services category. Now, this is number get much bigger if I go back and edit filters and say, what? I don't really care what industry they're in. What I sell to any senior marketing person in a mid-sized company. That's where we really can win. Great. I go back and I search again. I make that edit. I come back and it's going to give me more than those results. So 12,000 results. And so this data can be sliced up a bunch of different ways. But for now, we'll say this works. So let's go ahead and I go and say, I don't like restaurants. Okay, so let me go back real quick and say, I'm going to actually create a negative keyword. I don't want restaurant. I think the wrong word here. All right, spell it.
Negative search. LinkedIn is really rubbish at this. So you can try a Boolean search on LinkedIn, but it doesn't always remove everybody. If this can work. The other thing is on LinkedIn search, you're only going to get the first 2,000 or 3,000 on Sales Navigator. So even if you've got an identical search on Sales Nav and an identical search on LeadFuze is going to give you 13,000. Sales Nav is going to give you 3,000. So we're going
to give you our entire database that matches that search.
Yeah, so it's a huge amount of data that you can find, and that's a big problem with Sales Navigator or normal LinkedIn, that people get a search for like 60,000 and think it's a huge database, and then they realize actually I can only connect with and see these first 2,000, and that frustrates a lot of people, or a lot of people don't even know that.
Right. So you'll see like the negative keyword, and that restaurant company is now gone. And that's how powerful it is. And look, there's a learning curve like anything else, but we have a customer success team that can help you build your searches and actually will help you kind of refine your search as you go. But then just show you the last little feature that they'll hand over for our integration with Dux-Soup. So let's just say I went through, I like Judy. Judy looks good. Renee looks good. Okay, cool. And I can go one by one, but I don't need to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is say, okay, I'm going to select them all. I'm gonna add them to a lead list. I'm gonna create a new list. Director of Marketing, call it Senior Marketers, oops, spell correctly, Marketer 200 to 1000. All right. I'm gonna add leads. Now what's gonna happen is, so you get the notice here saying we're gonna validate these, you're gonna double check against our database, and it's gonna build a list here. This is building in the background right now, okay? So while that's building, I wanna show you our integrations. So obviously we have the wonderful Dux-Soup right here for LinkedIn. Yeah, sure.
It was just one quick question. So a few people are asking incorrectly, but I want to clear it out. Is this finding data from their database at all? So is this connected to their LinkedIn, their profile, or anything?
No.
And the answer is no. I want to clarify on that because different rules, different GDPR, different US rules, all sorts of people. The hot topic is where's this data from? And can you give a general bit of advice on that?
Yeah, sure. So this data is our data. This is our data set that we have built by ourselves, that we have purchased, that we have scrubbed multiple times. So we own and massage and manage the data. So what you're getting is our leads. And so what's actually happening is when you actually have a subscription with us, you're leasing the ability to use our list is essentially the high level thought process of it. So it's our list, we're letting you use it. And that's how it works. So. All right, on the integrations page, you see Dux-Soup here, obviously, which is great, but that's not the only one. We also have most major CRMs. We have some cold email tools, because what we're seeing people have a lot of success with these days is omni-channel. So you talk to them on LinkedIn, and you also send them an email, and maybe you also follow up with a phone call, and the ability to be able to kind of have that multiple touches points with them, because some people, they have preferred methods of communication, and so the ability to do that. But right now, we're seeing a lot of success with LinkedIn. Me personally, that's what we're seeing a lot of success in the business is our LinkedIn outreach. So we focus a lot on that. And then what we might do is once we've connected on there, move that conversation to email.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go back, go ahead.
And just on this, a lot of these softwares are really cool. And one bit of advice to everybody is whenever you look on a new software, if there's integrations, that's a really good way for you to learn about new software that you didn't know automatically. So a lot of softwares I learned about are things like from Zapier or LeadFuze or HubSpot. If you look at what softwares they integrate with, it's usually because these are really good tools that are worth using. So on LeadFuze integrations, things like Mailshake, things like Lemlist. If people haven't used Lemlist before, it's an awesome email marketing tool that's really unique in terms of how you target people. So trying to see what softwares integrate with other platforms is a great way for you to understand what methods you could be using that other people maybe don't know about. A few really quick questions, Damien, on this. In terms of the target audience, is there a limit? So somebody's asking, they want to target non-profits, for example, which I don't know if you can target or not. And the other big one is, obviously, this is US based at the moment. Is there any plans to go with European as well? Because there's a split of European and US customers as well as users.
There is. So right now, it's very North America heavy right now because we look for multiple data points. We're looking not just for email address, but also for phone numbers when we can get them and physical addresses. And so right now we're building out more of that capability for Europe. But yeah, it's very heavily US centric right now. So I'm just going to go back into this list we built real quick. You see, so now you see this actually add all these lists. And now what I've got is I hit this show details. It's going to show me everything we have about them. So it's going to show me, what technologies their website uses. It's going to show me where they went to school. It's going to show me what area they're in. And it's pulling a lot of this data from multiple sources. But you'll see there's some crossover here from some of the LinkedIn, which is great, like college degrees, that sort of thing. But it's going to show you everything we have from them. And then that's how you're going to be able to use it. Their LinkedIn profile, you can click on that, go to LinkedIn, that sort of thing. The other thing I want to show you real quickly, then I'm going to hand it off, is how to actually, whoops, that's not good. Hold on 1 second, sorry about that.
So I think just whilst you're logging in, there was one of the questions about pricing, which is obviously important to see if people that sign up, how should they pay and how does that work? And there was one of the question, I think just here, Brian, thanks for your question, was just saying if they sort of downloaded 5,000 profiles, could they connect with 5,000 people? And that's sort of a hybrid question between Damien answering and myself answering. So I think on that point, Brian, yes, you could download 10,000 bits of data and you could connect with 10,000, but it would certainly break your LinkedIn account. So with all of the safety security settings that we share, I think it's really important that you don't connect with that many people. But in theory, the data that you can download from LeadFuze, I think, is that limited to your price?
Yes. So there are some limits to the amount of daily volume you can do. And I'll tell you that excuse me, be careful, right, with large data pumps. Like the days of this is not just blast against the wall and see what sticks, right? That's a really good way to get kicked out of LinkedIn, or if you get cold email, it's a good way to get your email account shut down because you're acting like a spammer at that point. Right. And so just think about what would you like to get as a recipient? What you'd like to see is you'd like to see someone who took a little bit of time and had a bit of a crafted message targeted at me, not just a clear, mail merge blast out in the world and hope for the best. That just doesn't work anymore. No one replies to that. It's not a volume game, right? It's a quality game. So it's about kind of, consistent effort. I talk about going to the gym. Right. Yeah. You got to go to the gym 45 minutes every day. So you just set aside an hour every day to do prospecting, and that's what you do. You don't try to do 8 hours on Friday.
Well,
right?
do you want me to share my screen and then I can show?
I'll close out. Yeah. So what I was going to show, sorry, I just had to log back in. What I was going to show was there's ability actually. So I showed you a manual search and a manual ad.
Yeah.
FuseBot, which is our AI tool, will actually help you once you've created your persona. Once you save those traits, you can tell LeadFuze, hey, go find 50 of these every day. There you go. So 25 leads, so growth hack example. Yeah. Every day, if you hit resume on there, FuseBot's going to do find 25 people that match that criteria and automatically add them to your list.
Yeah, and this is really important because if you imagine for email marketing or LinkedIn, if you get a 50% open rate or 50% connection rate, it's pretty good going, but it still means that 50% of your data that you target are never going to hear about you. So it means that you need to find a way of, if you think you're getting traction in that channel, how do you keep renewing that search without trying to renew any new searches? And one point about Sales Navigator that people struggle with is that they'll do a saved search. It'll say 30,000 people. They can connect with 2,000. And although it'll say some new people enter your search criteria, they struggle to find, to add them to a campaign or to find their email address. And everything gets messy in terms of who have I contacted and who have I not contacted. So what's really nice with this bot, where you can see here in terms of the bot looking guy instead of an icon, is just the fact that this will automate it every day. So not only have you found your target audience, but LeadFuze will keep finding a new target audience. And what I want to now show you is how to then integrate that with an automated outreach. So I think, is there any other points you want to show on that, Damien, or just explain and I can show before I move on to how?
Yeah, you go ahead. You got it. That's good.
So yeah. If you imagine at this stage and you've found your target audience, the next thing is to decide, what do I do with this target audience? And we've tried to make this really sync easily so that you can go from here to connecting in one step. So one thing is obviously under integrations, you would, if you sign up, you would choose DuxSoup and turn it on, and you have different settings there. So very simply, on DuxSoup, you can sync that with your DuxSoup account. Now, bear in mind, this is for Dux-Soup Turbo users. This isn't a free version. And the way this works is by DuxSoup automatically connecting with LinkedIn and sending connection messages. So you need to have a Dux-Soup Turbo account for this integration to work. Once you've set that up, in terms of actually using this, it's pretty simple. Say I've found this list here in terms of growth hackers. Once I have a database of people, I'll just wait for this to load up. I'll find a few here actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, this could be a good one. Here we go. Once this will load up and we find the leads here, so Nancy, Catherine, that sort of thing. Once I've got my target audience, I can click select leads, list options, and send to. Now at the moment, the only integration I've got set up is DuxSoup. But I could say send to email, send to CRM, send to LinkedIn. So as a tool for automation, LeadFuze is amazing in terms of it'll find your target audience, but it's actually going to speak to other platforms to send them. A lot of other softwares out there will only find your data, but then tell you to export it and then upload it to something else. So the fact that you can integrate here means that it's all one movement. Now, before you go live with anything, so I'll go back to that again. When you say send to DuxSoup, if you click settings, they have a connection message and then a follow-up message. So it means that you need to write these similar in terms of merge tags. But again, going back to the psychology of what do you write? So you can say, hi, we share interest in growth hacking, I'd like to connect. And you can say, thanks for accepting. Here's a link to my blog. what problems do you have at the moment. So the psychology of the messaging we've covered in lots of other webinars and blogs, so I'll not talk about it too much today. But the technology here is LeadFuze can find the data and then send a connection message and then a follow-up on your behalf. So I'll just change that name to Pat, and then I'll save. Okay, so the next steps are, if I wanted to do a quick test here, I'm going to pick Sherry, for example. And then if I click list options, send to DuxSoup and visit profile, because everything's connected, what will happen is it'll say, we've successfully queued this request. And then once DuxSoup speaks to LinkedIn, it's going to do the following. So it's going to go to LinkedIn here, and hopefully this shares okay. Yeah, just loading up. And now you can see Sherry's profile there. And then DuxSoup will trigger like it wouldn't do normally to say, this is a new person's profile, this will view the profile, and then done. So once it gets to LinkedIn, DuxSoup behaves in the normal way that anybody uses DuxSoup anyway. But by triggering this sort of interaction, it means you have a software in the background that's finding your data and then pushing it to LinkedIn to view a profile, and then it'll close again. Likewise, if I want to try a different person here, so not Sherry, let's have a look at Linda. This time, instead of viewing the profile and I want to send a connection request, it's exactly the same thing. It'll just run a different sort of process. So anybody that's using Dux-Soup Turbo at the moment will be used to this process in terms of LinkedIn profiles popping up, sending a connection message, and closing again. The only difference now is you're not manually uploading that data at all. So if we have a look here, profiles opening, and then this is just Dux-Soup Turbo working as you hope it would. Send a connection message, and you can add tags, any of the things that you want to do as a normal Dux-Soup user. So the big power of this is, if you think the context of it, step one, finding your target audience on LinkedIn or finding email addresses is a really tough job. And so if you find your target audience, that's step one, which is huge. And this is what LeadFuze can do. Then step two is, if you can sync this with DuxSoup, anytime you find your target audience, you can manually trigger this to connect with people, or you can set up the LeadFuze bot that will add 25 or 50 new people a day, and then synced with DuxSoup, it can then visit those profiles or connect with 50 people a day, for example. So the power of syncing these tools together is your lead generation search and outreach is on complete autopilot. So one question, Damien and Andy, if you're still online, I presume, although I haven't set this up before, the way this is working with DuxSoup, is that similar into how it works with, say, I don't know, Woodpecker or Mailshake, in terms of just sending it to their system and their system sends an email?
Yeah, so actually the DuxSoup integration is actually pretty tight, much tighter than some of the other ones. The other ones is about moving leads from us to them. Yes. Right. So like if you're in Mailshake, for example, you have a series of lists, you've got automation built around those lists. We can automate moving a specific list from LeadFuze to Mailshake. But the actual, like, all of that work's actually happening on Mailshake's end, whereas I think the DuxSoup are actually a little bit tighter. Yeah,
so I think with Mailshake or any mail software, you usually say, I'll email 100 a day, and it just depends on what's on the list to be sent. So although I might add Nancy to my email campaign, it doesn't necessarily mean Nancy will get an email straight away. But on LinkedIn with DuxSoup, you might say, add Nancy to the list, and she'll get a connection straight away. So I think there's a few things to be aware for both sides of the party. One is, you want to try and get as big a database as you can, but as qualified and as specific as you can. So although you could get 10,000 people, try and instead focus on something like 1,000 people who you think all could be interested. And likewise with LinkedIn, don't worry about connecting with thousands of people. Connect with people where you feel like there's some sort of interest. So there's something shared in common. You're from the same state, the same country, the same industry, something where you can start a conversation to speak to them. Once you see that little bit of traction, you can then think of, okay, let's start to speed everything up in terms of the data that I'm finding, the industries, and how many people I'm connecting with. But with any of these sort of marketing, it's about high quality to get the results, and also the safety of your email providers, of your LinkedIn profiles, that sort of thing. So like I say in pretty much every webinar, slow and steady, and just try and be good, as in 7 out of 10 every day instead of 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, massive connections, and then the next day your account's flagged and it's useless. So slow and steady in terms of how you do a lot of this. I think that should explain a lot of this process in terms of how you go from LeadFuze to DuxSoup. There's one final thing I just want to show everybody. With the automation, you can do send to DuxSoup, and that's perfect. But LeadFuze does have the option to select everything and just to export. Now, the reason this is highly beneficial is because you might want to use LeadFuze as a tool to find all your data, but you might also want to merge that with other tools that you're using to find data. So there are tools to scrape emails or LinkedIn profiles from directly from LinkedIn, get from Facebook groups, get from websites. So there might be multiple places of where you find your data. Now, if you can put these all into one place, then you have a combined spreadsheet where that's your target data set. And if you export onto CSV, for example, one thing you can do with DuxSoup is if you go to DuxSoup options and then revisit, you can upload this database here of people you want to target. There you go. So it's shown on the screen. So you might not want to use the integration direct if you want to have a sort of a buffer in between where you manually check the data a bit more, remove a few people that maybe slip through the net who you're not sure. Then you can upload it to here, and then you can start connecting with them. So there's the direct integration with LeadFuze, or you can just export and then sort of import as well. So I hope that answers a lot of questions so far. And then both DuxSoup team and the LeadFuze team are here for sort of 5-10 minutes to answer any questions that anybody has. So Rita, do you want to shout a few out, and we'll see who can help?
Yeah, sure. So many people are asking about the pricing of LeadFuze.
Okay, so do you want to lead that one, Damien, in terms of if you want to pay, how much do you pay, and how does it work?
Yeah, I'll hand that one to Andy actually, but
Okay.
I want to answer a question I'm seeing a lot in the chat, which is about EU data. So yes, we do not have EU data right now. We GDPR is a beast, and so we are working on getting that fixed, making sure that we are compliant. The last thing we would want to do is give you non-compliant data. And so that's something we're working on right now. So this is US centric. So if your business can only sell, it doesn't matter where you're based, right? If you're based in the EU and you want to sell to the US, perfect, you can do that. But if you're saying I'm in the EU, I only need EU data because I can only sell in the EU, we don't have that data right now until we can get GDPR compliant.
And that's right. So I run a lead generation agency as well. And one of the things I do is any US companies that I need to find the audience for or the target, I'll use LeadFuze. And if it's European, I'll test out and different softwares as well, because the quality of data in LeadFuze is very, very good, and it's very easy to use. That solves one problem. So I think, if you're only EU only, I think this is not quite for you yet. If you're EU and US or just US, this will be your go-to tool to find all those relevant people you need.
Yeah.
I think it was any other questions, because I think Damien, you can see them as well. So if you want to jump in, one of the one, Andy, if you want to explain, is how do I pay? Is it a free trial? Is it any sample data? I'm not sure if we've agreed a deal with DuxSoup or not, if there's any discounts or perks, but do you want to explain any of that?
Sure thing. So for the pricing, if you would let me share my screen.
Oh yeah, sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go, if you want to go for it.
All right, there. So when you sign up for the trial, you'll get a free 7-day trial, inclusive of free 25 lead credits, which you can use to get contact details of your ideal leads. But you can run unlimited searches while you're on the trial. So, you can run as many searches as you want while you're within that 7-day trial. Now, we have 2 plans available. We have the solo plan, which is a month-to-month subscription, and it's $97 a month, which gives you 500 lead credits. And we also have a team plan, which is inclusive of 2 users for $297 a month. And this one gives you unlimited lead credits. And although it comes with a 12-month commitment, since it's actually an annual plan that we allow to be paid in monthly installments. So there you go.
Okay, and I think value for money, it seems the team one makes a lot of sense, because soon you only have to get over 500 and you realize actually there's a big jump to just get unlimited and scrape as much as you can. So I think for a target audience, it depends on the size of the business. But what I usually say is, for my cost of software, could I could I easily make a huge profit on all the software making just one sale? Then if I want to make 4 or 5 in a month, then it's a no-brainer. So some people will say it's very expensive. Other people say it's really cost effective and very cheap. So it's always with the context of their outreach and their sales and that sort of thing.
Right. I'd say just overall that's the case, right? So overall, if what you sell, if the lifetime value of a customer for you is less than $1,000, then outbound probably is not the way for you to build your business, right? Because it's just too much effort for too small, regardless of what software you use. But if you have a lifetime value in the 4 figures, then it's absolutely worth to kind of invest in the better software.
Yeah, and I think a few people are asking, so is this integrated with DuxSoup in terms of pricing? And no, this is a completely different software. So you might be a LeadFuze user and use loads of different software, and you might be a DuxSoup user and use different software. So this is an integration with both, but both are their own software in their own right. I think there may be something we'll look in the future in terms of a combined price or something like that, but at the moment, it's just too complicated to organize. So it's basically a tool that can integrate if you want to be a separate LeadFuze user, use the data, and then sync it with DuxSoup. I think there's one final question about Sales Navigator. So, oh yeah, so it's saying, do you think you need to be a Sales Navigator user to sync this up? And I think from your point of view, it doesn't really matter at all, does it? The data is just you provide. What they do with it can be on any account. So I can answer part of that, but from the LeadFuze side, it doesn't matter what LinkedIn account you have, does it?
It does not.
Yeah, perfect. So from the LeadFuze side, you can, it's not linked to your LinkedIn profile. So this isn't going to limit you if you've got 100 connections or 10,000. There's no sync at all. This is just you creating a profile. And remember, all the data belongs to LeadFuze. They're not using a scraping tool to find it as you requested, something like that. So you're basically just buying the data that they own. With regards to connecting on LinkedIn, this is different. I would always recommend to use Sales Navigator based on how active you can be. But one of the huge benefits of Sales Navigator is the tool to find your target audience. Now, if you don't need all those functions of finding the audience, then the only benefits of Sales Navigator are how active you can be. So Sales Nav, you can search or you can visit about 1,000 profiles a day compared to basic LinkedIn, which is about 1,500 a month. So if you're going to be really active on LinkedIn and connecting with lots of people, then yes, I would say Sales Nav. But say if you're going to use LeadFuze and actually only connecting with, say, 20, 30, 40 a day, you may get rid of Sales Nav account and just use a basic LinkedIn account, but a LeadFuze account. But really, I think if you're going to go for this, you need to be really serious about how you're pushing outbound, the types of channels you want to really push. And again, yeah, I think it's good advice of something like if you have a sale of $1,000, £1,000 a month, then these tools will help because you can get a couple of sales a month from just these tools. And anything from 5 to 10, I've seen companies making just from outbound marketing, setting up demos, having a call, closing deals, that sort of thing. I think, Ruta, is there any other questions where you think would be really helpful to ask? Or Damien, Andy, if you want to see if there's anything you think would be relevant.
I think we hit the big points.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. So, okay, so thanks everybody who's attended this. A final few bits. You'll all get a recording of this. If you've got any questions about LeadFuze on chat, you'll probably end up speaking to Andy. So be very polite. Thank her for her time and see how you can get some help. If it's anything related to DuxSoup, please go on live chat. And again, Ruta can help you or send us some support questions. If you're going to connect with any of the team that's been on the call via LinkedIn, make sure you send a connection request. Otherwise, half the time they'll just be ignored. But if you do connect, particularly with people like Damien, he has a huge network. He's highly influential in what he does. And if he's kind enough to accept your connection, then your second degrees will be boosted a lot. So just expect.
Just in the invite request, just say DuxSoup. That's all I have to say, and I'll accept them all.
Yeah, brilliant. Perfect. So I think one very final question, then I think we'll wrap up here. Okay, sorry, it was just about people asking to connect. So perfect. So thanks for your time, everybody. Any questions at all, keep in touch. And with the integrations, you can ask LeadFuze about how to work it. If it's about integrating with DuxSoup, always get in touch with DuxSoup direct, because although Andy is an expert in how to use the tool, any technical sides of DuxSoup, she'll just say, speak to the DuxSoup team. So come directly to us and we're more than happy to help. So thanks everybody for your time. Thanks, Damien. Thanks, Andy. And thanks, Ruta. And keep in touch and speak to you soon, everybody.
Thank you.
Perfect.